Our stories start with our names.
She's an accomplished author with over 14 books to her name.
I'm like bringing the African woman to North America.
Yes, this festive season, Alberta-based author Aileen Osa narrates to us how she made inroads in Canada's literary world and how she's using her platform to keep the Kenyan culture alive, one book at a time.
The children, the grandchildren, when they are asked, where do you come from? They should not just say Canada.
Her name is Kwamboka, which translates to crossing over, and she did exactly that, crossing over from Kenya to start a life in Canada. And as you've seen, she has made a name for herself. My name is Michael Zimanji. This is Daring Abroad, and we cross over to Canada.
If you had told a young Aileen Kwamboka Omosa that one day she would be a celebrated author of over 14 books, all while domiciled abroad, most likely she would have written it off as wishful thinking. But after 19 years since arriving in Canada, Aileen is exactly that.
This is my first book.
This is your first book?
Yeah,
Ignited by Education. Mm-hmm. Wow. In a summary, what is it about?
It's a set of 3 books, and I'm looking at the whole issue of what does it take for an African girl who has gained higher education to be a career person and balance a career with cultural expectations of them. So that one I look at employment.
Employment.
So it's my fictional character called Sophia.
Sophia.
So it's looking at getting a job, you know, the whole journey. And I think these stories came from the whole idea when we were growing up, we used to be told, go to school. After you go to school, it's like education will solve all your problems, especially as the African girl. We went to school and we thought, wow. So that's what the story that I'm getting Sophia, I'm using Sophia to tell.
Yes, hers is all about using contemporary women's fiction to highlight real-world issues.
In Canada, I'm like bringing the African woman to North America. So anybody interested on issues of development issues in Africa, and especially on gender issues, education of the African girl, then they read my books, then we can start the conversation.
Other works by Aileen include Slowed by a Baby, Trapped Inside the Family Box, Her Choices, My Journey Overseas, A Nanny for the CEO, The Fear Within Us, The Family Between Us, Nyawira the Billionaire's Daughter, The Girl Who Left the Village, The Secret He Never Told Her, and Night Secrets at Tree Hills Town, to name but a few.
I've always been a reader and a writer, I can say. I think it's a passion because I feel like I have so many stories in my head and stories coming out of things that I see in society. So that first I write to get the stories out of my head.
Now, a bit about Aileen. Her story began in Gusii Highlands, where she was born and raised. She eventually found her way to the University of Nairobi, where she specialized in sociology and anthropology. That was her genesis into writing. But as she narrates, the first few chapters of her life post-uni had little to do with storytelling.
I worked in the NGO sector, training people in the area of natural resource management, especially communities, how to conserve and benefit from the resources. So got to train people on issues of gender. So we were mainstreaming gender into projects, conflict management, especially when the resources are shared by communities. So that's what I did.
Like a good protagonist, Aileen excelled in her field, but this phase of her life was but a footnote. It didn't take long for her to start yearning for a new chapter. This is what inevitably led her to daring abroad. But why Canada?
Adventure.
Adventure, which year?
Because we came in the professional category, you know, where Canada is always looking for professionals. Yeah, so we applied in that category and came in 2005.
2005.
Yeah.
So you had a work permit?
Yeah, when you come in the professional category, you get the PR before you come.
What is PR? Permanent residence.
Yeah. So we got that from Kenya. We applied from Kenya. So when we came in, we had the PR. You know, when you come, you've been told Canada wants professionals. And then you pack, you come, and you know, I left, I was working with an international organization, so I thought getting to Canada, I'll even be higher up there.
Yeah, you had big dreams.
You get here, so I had to start all over again. And since the natural resource management sector is not like in Kenya, here I found that it's more to the scientific side of it. And government has rules and regulations and policies, so it's like you follow them. And like in Kenya, where we were working with communities and also with government. So I had to try and shift out of there. I found myself back to school in trying to find how do I fit into the work environment.
So I thought you said you had a work permit. So the work permit doesn't necessarily mean you have a straightforward job that is tallying with what you studied in Kenya.
That's what I thought. But then when you get here, you have to start applying for jobs. That's when I was like, oh. And like the type of skills that I had, they were not very transferable here.
So you may have certain skills in Kenya, but they're not transferable here to enable you get the job that you like or that is in line with what you studied in Kenya.
Yeah.
So while you are professional, then you may have to study something else to fit into the system.
To fit into the system.
As expected, Aileen put pen to paper and applied to the University of Alberta, where she enrolled for a PhD in rural sociology. This resulted in an interesting pivot in her career.
Yeah, I've worked mostly within the university.
University teaching?
Doing research.
Doing research.
Because I love interacting with people. That's what I've done like throughout in my life. So I got into that. I've done research in different fields from the medical field, but the social aspect of it, like looking at people's access to food, you know, food security, or people, how do they do like exercise, you know, still fitting into the medical field. I've even been involved in a research looking at people transitioning their careers, immigrants. How do they now transition into the Canadian job system?
Even with this, Aileen remained true to her calling. Currently, she's been able to position herself as one to watch in the literary world, with her books flying off the physical and virtual shelves thanks to platforms like Amazon. But this doesn't mean it hasn't been devoid of plot twists.
So far, the challenge that I can say I'm working on, it's the marketing bit of it, because for me, writing a book, I have so many stories, but then the publishing process and now the marketing. Taking the books to the market, of course, now the money issue comes in, because I would like the books to pay for themselves. So how do I get them to the hands of readers?
And speaking of readers, Aileen is also using her platform to instill the love of writing and keeping the Kenyan culture alive while abroad with her latest project.
They are journaling books. It's out of the idea of people move from Kenya, immigrants. We come here, we live a life, but then what's going to happen to the children and the grandchildren that we are going to live in Canada. So out of that fear of I'll be forgotten, I decided to design these books. They are books with questions.
With questions and you answer.
People to document their family stories.
Yeah, family stories. I've seen you've asked questions like what's the meaning of your name, the origin of your name.
Because our stories start with our names.
Aileen's success in Canada is evidence of how most Kenyans domiciled abroad are authors of their own fate. Looking at what she's been able to achieve, one can't help but marvel, and when asked about her time abroad, hers was a textbook answer.
No, I don't regret coming here because I've been able to raise a family. I hope that for my children, they are having a better time. So what I would like to tell people is that if you feel a calling, like you'd like to go on an adventure, because that's what we did. Yes, in the beginning it can be hard, but there is nothing as good as, saying yes to an inner calling. So if you have something that you've always wished to do, take that risk. At the end of it, when you look back, you are like, oh, it's good. Like for me, when I look at my books, I'm like, oh, it's good because being in Canada, I've been able to learn about publishing. And it's like once I got out of my home area, the ideas became better. Yeah, so everybody out there, take a risk. You will not regret it.
And that's daring abroad.
Now that is what we call daring, moving beyond the comfort of your own boundaries and making it abroad. Many thanks to our guest today and to Alex Chamwada for that story. With that, we have come to the end of the show today. But before I sign off, a bit of information from an amazing company that will come in handy this festive season. I'm of course talking about Niche Barbershop and Salon. Yes, located at Gallant Mall ground floor on Parklands Road opposite Mayfair Suits, Niche Salon caters to all your hair needs and types. They have a spa that offers services like facials, massages, waxing and body scrubs, and of course they also have a barbershop. Yes, as you plan on looking your best this festive season, consider Niche for all your hair needs. That is how we bring the show to a close today. On behalf of the team responsible for this week's episode, we say Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2025.
Unity Homes is a housing developer, and we focus on creating high-grade investment properties. We were founded in 2015 really with the aim of producing high-quality homes at an affordable price. At present, we have 3 projects ongoing within Tartu City. Silver Hill is a passion project. I love that London-style architecture. The ground floor is a dining room, living room, open-plan kitchen. It's got an electric fireplace. The whole thing opens up into your own private garden. We've got a gym, we've got a swimming pool, we've got a sauna, we've got a business centre, but we've also got a private park. I would urge anybody who's watching this, whether you're in the diaspora, whether you're in Kenya, you should get in touch with us. We make sure that these are pleasant places to bring up families.